The wind howled, rain lashed against the guest house windows. A lone figure, dwarfed by the desolate moor, struggled towards the flickering lights. This was no ordinary destination. This was Blackmoor Guest House, a place whispered to be cursed. Built in the 17th century, Blackmoor had borne witness to centuries of tragedy. Each stone, each creaking floorboard, seemed to whisper tales of misfortune and despair. The new arrival, a young writer seeking solitude, shivered, unaware he was stepping into a nightmare. The guest house stood silent, shrouded in an almost palpable gloom. John, the caretaker, a man weathered by time and secrets, greeted the writer with a grave nod. "You'll be wanting room 12 then?" he rasped, his voice heavy with unspoken warnings. Room 12, the most haunted room in Blackmoor. Legend had it that a young bride had taken her life there, unable to bear the sudden loss of her beloved. Her grief, they said, still permeated the very walls, a chilling presence trapped within. The writer, initially dismissive of local lore, soon felt a creeping unease. The temperature plummeted, a bone-chilling draft seemed to follow him, whispering his name. One night, as shadows stretched across the room, he saw her. A translucent figure, draped in a white gown, her face obscured by long dark hair, the lady in white. She stood at the foot of his bed, her sorrowful eyes fixed upon him. Then, as quickly as she appeared, she vanished. As days turned into sleepless nights, the writer learned more about Blackmoor's tragic past. John, his voice a low murmur, spoke of a young boy who had disappeared without a trace a century prior. His laughter, they said, could still be heard echoing through the halls. One evening the writer could have sworn he saw the boy, a fleeting image of a child disappearing around a corner. The sound of distant laughter sent shivers down his spine. He was no longer a skeptic. Blackmoor was truly haunted. Section 5. Cold spots and unexplained noises. The atmosphere in Blackmoor grew heavier, the silence punctuated by unexplained noises. Footsteps creaked on the stairs, though no one was there. Doors slammed shut on their own. An icy hand seemed to grip the writer's heart each time he entered room 12. He tried to focus on his writing, but the words wouldn't come. The stories of Blackmoor, the lady in white, the vanished child, they consumed his thoughts. He was living a nightmare, trapped in a house of sorrow. Section 6. A Night of Terror. This tale begins on a night when the air was thick with tension, and the darkness seemed to have a life of its own. The writer, a man known for his vivid imagination, had always been fascinated by the supernatural. Little did he know, this night would blur the lines between his fiction and reality. One night, the storm returned with a vengeance. The sky was a canvas of chaos painted with streaks of lightning and the relentless drumming of rain. The writer had always found storms to be inspiring, but this one felt different. It was as if the storm had a purpose, a message to deliver. Wind howled like a banshee, rattling the windows. The trees outside swayed violently, their branches scratching against the house like skeletal fingers. The writer could feel the storm's fury seeping into his bones, making him shiver despite the warmth of his bed. The writer lay in bed, paralyzed by fear. His mind raced with thoughts of the stories he had written, tales of ghosts and spirits that now seemed all too real. He tried to convince himself it was just his imagination, but the fear was too intense, too palpable. Suddenly he felt an icy breath on his cheek, a whisper brushing against his ear. The words were unintelligible, but the tone was unmistakable. It was a plea, a cry for help. The writer's heart raced as he realized he was not alone in the room. He flung back the covers, his heart pounding in his chest. The room was dark, but he could make out a faint, ghostly glow at the foot of his bed. His breath came in short, panicked gasps as he tried to make sense of what he was seeing. There, at the foot of his bed, stood the lady in white. She was a figure from his stories, a ghostly apparition that haunted the pages of his book. But now, she was here, in his room, as real as the storm outside. This time her face was clear, her expression filled with an unbearable sadness. Her eyes, hollow and haunting, seemed to plead with him, as if she was trying to convey a message that he couldn't quite understand. The writer felt a pang of sorrow, mixed with fear, as he looked at her. He reached out to her, but his hand passed right through. The coldness of her presence lingered on his skin, a chilling reminder that she was not of this world. The writer knew he had to uncover the mystery of the lady in white, to understand why she had come to him on this night of terror. Section 7. The search for answers. Desperate for answers, the writer delved into the local archives, searching for any mention of the lady in white or the vanished child. The archives were a labyrinth of forgotten stories, each document a potential key to unlocking the mystery that had haunted the town for generations. Dusty shelves groaned under the weight of countless volumes, each one whispering secrets of the past. The writer's fingers traced the spines of these ancient tomes, feeling the weight of history in his hands. He discovered a faded diary, its pages filled with the heartbroken scribblings of a young woman named Eliza. The diary was a window into a soul tormented by loss and longing. Each page was a testament to her undying love and the pain of separation. The ink, though faded, still carried the weight of her emotions, each word a cry for solace in a world that had turned its back on her. Eliza, the bride who had taken her life in room 12. Her story was one of tragic romance, a love that was destined to end in sorrow. The photograph of her in her wedding dress, a vision of beauty and hope, stood in stark contrast to the despair that had ultimately consumed her. Her eyes, once filled with dreams of a future with her beloved, now seemed to gaze into an abyss of unfulfilled promises. Her writings were filled with longing for her lost love, a sailor who had perished at sea. Each letter she wrote to him, never sent, was a poignant reminder of a love that was both eternal and tragically cut short. The sea, which had taken her beloved, became a symbol of her endless weight, a vast expanse that mirrored her own emptiness. Her words painted a picture of a love that defied even death, a bond that remained unbroken despite the cruel hand of fate. The diary also mentioned a young boy, her brother, who had wandered onto the moor and never returned. His disappearance added another layer of tragedy to Eliza's story, a family torn apart by loss and unanswered questions. The moor, with its eerie beauty and hidden dangers, became a place of sorrow and mystery. The writer could almost hear the echoes of Eliza's cries, calling out for her lost brother, her voice carried away by the winds that swept across the desolate landscape. The search for answers had only just begun, and the writer knew that the truth, however painful, was waiting to be uncovered. Section 8. The Unsettling Discovery. The writer's heart sank. He had been chasing shadows, piecing together fragments of a story that seemed to elude him at every turn. The realization hit him like a tidal wave, leaving him breathless and disoriented. He had always felt a strange connection to the tale, an inexplicable pull that he couldn't quite understand. Now, it all made sense. He realized that the vanished child was not a separate entity, but Eliza's brother, forever searching for his sister in the afterlife. The old photograph he found in the attic, the one with the young boy and girl, suddenly took on a new, haunting significance. The ghostly image of the siblings holding hands, their faces etched with a sorrow that transcended time, was a poignant reminder of a bond that even death couldn't sever. The lady in white, the vanished child, their grief was intertwined, a tragic echo resonating through the ages. The writer could almost see them, the ethereal woman in her flowing white dress wandering through the dark forest, her spectral child by her side. Their sorrow was palpable, a heavy weight that seemed to hang in the air, suffocating and relentless. It was a grief that had been passed down through generations, a haunting legacy that refused to be forgotten. He visited the local graveyard searching for their graves. The graveyard was old and overgrown, a forgotten place that seemed to exist outside of time. As he walked among the gravestones, the fog swirling around his feet, he felt a chill run down his spine. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves, and the only sound was the distant hoot of an owl. He held his lantern high, its flickering light casting eerie shadows on the ancient stones. There they were, side by side, Eliza and her young brother. The gravestones were weathered and covered in moss, but the names were still legible. He knelt down, brushing away the leaves and dirt that had accumulated over the years. Someone had laid flowers in front of the graves, a small but touching gesture that spoke of a love that had endured despite the passage of time. He felt a lump in his throat as he read the names, the reality of their tragic story hitting him with full force. As he stood there, a cold wind swept across the graveyard, carrying with it the faint sound of a woman weeping and a child's laughter. The wind seemed to whisper secrets, tales of love and loss that had been buried along with the bodies. He closed his eyes, letting the sounds wash over him, and for a moment he felt a connection to the past, to the lives that had been lived and lost. It was a moment of clarity, a brief glimpse into a world that was both haunting and beautiful. Section 9. The haunting continues. The writer fled Blackmore that night, unable to bear the weight of its sorrow any longer. He left behind the diary, hoping to bring some peace to the restless spirits. But the haunting continues, a chilling reminder that some wounds never truly heal. Blackmore Guest House still stands, a lonely sentinel on the windswept moor. It remains a place of whispered tales and chilling encounters, a testament to the enduring power of grief and the mysteries that lie beyond the veil.